2,000 years ago, this Colosseum was filled with blood, guts, and cheering ancient Romans, bloodthirsty to see yet another gladiatorial fight. However, a lot of people did not end up coming out of these games alive. Right over here, we're seeing the door of life. And over here is the door of death. There were many people who triumphed and many more who lost. Today we're going to learn about 3 emperors of Rome who were all involved into the building of this great Colosseum and its glory in the following years. I'm Ariel with Urbanist, and let me know where you're watching from. Today we're going to explore the Roman Colosseum, the great structure that is known all around the world, like the Statue of Liberty is known in New York, or the Eiffel Tower is known in Paris, or the Tower of London is known in London. This is the icon of the Eternal City. Welcome to Episode 7 of Mysteries of the Eternal City. Hello everyone, bonjour, buongiorno. Welcome to the Eternal City, and we are at one of the most iconic landmarks in the entire world. But how did it get started? Well, for that we have to go back all the way to 60 AD. 60 AD, there was a huge fire that started consuming all of ancient Rome. This fire was one of the worst fires in all of antiquity, and Rome at that time was one of the largest cities in the world at 1 million people living in this city. 1 million people is huge in comparison. There's only a few million living in Rome today. However, this fire was very controversial because there are many theories as to who started it. Was it the Christians? Was it just a merely accidental fire, as happens all the time in antiquity and all throughout recent history? Or was it something more notorious than that? Because in the 60s AD, this was not anything. This was kind of empty land. But one particular emperor looked at it with bright eyes because he wanted to build his own pleasure palace. That was Nero. Let's see the ruins of that pleasure palace and why it's in ruin. Let's walk around the Colosseum, and then after that we're going to learn about the man who built it and then the man who fought in it. 3 emperors tonight. Let's go. Hello Helen, hello Duran, hello Amanda, hello Kay, hello Roy, hello Mandy. Welcome everyone. So let's walk around the Colosseum. And today we'll find out whether we'll give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to our last emperor that we're going to talk about, Commodus. So the Colosseum was originally called the Flavian Amphitheater. However, it got the nickname Colosseum from a huge statue that was right in front of it called the Colossus. What was that statue? Well, we have to learn about the man who that statue was built for. Emperor Nero, who, according to many Christians, was known as the first Antichrist. But why was he so notorious with the Christians? Well, we have to go back to the fire, because when that great fire happened in 60s AD, Nero was apparently playing the liar. He was singing and rejoicing as Rome burned down to the ground. At least those were the rumors. But why was Nero rejoicing? Let's go right inside here. We're going to see why. Hello, Gwen. Hello, everyone. Let me know where you're watching from if you're tuning in for the first time. If you're not, if you're a regular Urbanist viewer, let me know what's your favorite stadium. What stadium have you been to aside from the Colosseum? What other stadiums have you been to? So Emperor Nero was celebrating because right here on these very grounds was going to be Dominus Aurea. Dominus Aurea was Nero's golden palace, a pleasure palace for the man who was known as the Antichrist. However, there's only a few remnants of Dominus Aurea, the golden palace, scattered throughout this park. Almost no one knows about them. Almost no one cares about them. But why? Well, Nero went through what was called damnatory memoria. If you remember that term, we talked about it with Caracalla committing damnatory memoria with his brother Geta that he brutally murdered in cold blood in his own mother's arms. Nero was watching, apparently, according to the rumors that spread in Rome at that time, was watching the city burn down to the ground. And he was rejoicing because he was happy that some land cleared up so he can build this huge golden palace. The golden palace that used to stand here, and its huge artificial lake that stood here. And the Colossus, built in Nero's likeness as a god with rays of sun on his crown, was built right in front of the artificial lake. But Nero used a scapegoat in order to blame the reason why Rome burned down to the ground. A city of 1 million people, many thousands died that night. He decided to blame it on the Christians, saying that they committed arson on the city because they wanted to watch it burn down to the ground so the city will suffer just like their Lord Jesus Christ did. Then he started executing Christians in lavish displays in this Nero circus that is located in modern day St. Peter's Basilica. However, Nero fell out of favor because the rumors spread too far that it was him, and also the Senate disliked Nero because Nero didn't care about ruling. Nero just wanted to have fun. Nero felt like an artist inside. He loved to sing, he loved to dance, and he also loved to dress up as people of other genders. So he was a very flamboyant emperor who didn't care too much about proper rule. He cared more about just having pleasure. So no one really liked them, nor the military also. Nero also murdered his own mother, Agrippina, who was married to Claudius. Agrippina was one woman who conspired to murder her own other son. So Nero didn't have the best relationship with Agrippina. People wanted Nero's head. But for that, we have to go out east, all the way to Judea. Let's go back to the stadium. Hello, Roy. Wimberley Stadium. Hello, Michelle. Ooh, Wimberley. Yes, Wimberley. That's in England, right? So here's the museum. It's a pretty awesome museum. They have great descriptions and photographs of the Colosseum, how it was restored, and also models of how it used to look like. And they also have very old pieces of the decorations, because what we're looking right now at the Colosseum isn't how it looked like 2,000 years ago. This Colosseum dates back to 80 AD. About 20 years after Emperor Nero killed himself. So here we're seeing some pieces of marble left. And this is huge. This is about 120 feet tall, maybe a little bit more than that. 150 feet tall structure. It reigned over the skyline of Rome for nearly 2,000 years. Still reigns over the skyline of Rome, only bested by a few landmarks, including the dome of St. Peter's Basilica, which reigns at 482 feet tall. You also see graffiti here. A lot of people left like graffiti signs as well. And there was a few levels. People sitting all the way up here would be the women, children, or people of very low classes. In the middle, you'll have more kind of people, men, people of the lower to middle classes. A little bit lower would be the equestrian class, which is kind of the bourgeois of ancient Rome. And right down there, very close to the action, you will have the emperor, the senate, and also the very, very rich aristocrats of Rome, the men who own massive armies and lend them out to the emperor whenever he needed to fight a battle abroad. Right over here is where the action took place. Gladiators fighting to the death. Animals also fighting to the death against each other and also against humans, both armed and unarmed. Hunts would take place here as well, where they would have lavish animals from across the realm, such as ostriches, giraffes, elephants, and tigers, lions, and many, many others. Is the colony of cats here? No, no longer. They had to kind of expel them because they're fixing right now the underground significantly. So, out east, all the way in Judea, there is a revolution taking place by a Jewish man who was utterly disgusted by this new cult of Christianity, and also how the Romans kept invading more and more of their lands. This man was revolting, and he was captured by the general Vespasian. Now, Vespasian was part of the equestrian class. As I mentioned earlier, the equestrian class was kind of the middle class of Rome. There were just business owners, and some of them went into the military, and some of them got to the rank of general. But Vespasian wasn't really well liked by Nero. He spent many years in exile because his family kind of fell out of favor. He was part of the Flavian family. But it wasn't a dynasty. It wasn't aristocracy. It was just a normal middle-class family. So Vespasian had a meeting with this revolutionary from Judea. And this revolutionary from Judea did not want to be executed. So he looked at Vespasian and he decided to humor him and said, I foresee that you will soon reign over the Roman Empire. Now, Vespasian is a humble man. He's not really too ambitious. He was so not ambitious that his own mother, there's a fly flying right around me. His own mother told him, hey, come on, try a little bit harder. You can maybe do something with your life. He became general, but he was exiled, so kind of wasn't too much of a high example. So Vespasian laughed at this Jewish revolutionary, and he was so humored by it, he decided to not kill him. Prison him, but not kill him. Little does he know, Nero kills himself. There was a huge battle, civil war happening in ancient Rome. The reason there was a huge ancient Roman civil war was because there was no more Judean Claudian dynasty left. Nero was the very last one. So, 4 different emperors decided to take control. One after the other kept getting killed and murdered. The only one left that was risen up the ranks by his own military who demanded him to take control was Vespasian, who was known for his conquest of Judea. And Vespasian came reigning into Rome. He didn't actually want to become emperor. At least that's what people said. He actually didn't have too much high ambitions. But Vespasian, he was a man of his duty. If he was given the duty, he was going to do it. Just like he became general and conquered Judea as he was told to do so. So, he decided to assume the role of emperor and fully. However, he wasn't going to repeat the mistakes of Nero. So he declared the damnatory memoriae on Nero, which means all traces of his memory was to be erased. Vespasian's first orders in Rome was to dismantle Nero's golden palace, brick by brick, destroy the artificial lake. And for the Colossus, it was a very beautiful bronze sculpture, so he decided to change the features of the Colossus into more of a general Colossus of Sol, which is the sun god, Helios. But Vespasian wanted to do something for the people. He didn't care about his own palace, and it took a lot of guts for this newly elevated Roman general becoming an emperor to sacrifice a beautiful golden palace in order to live in much more modest means. He decided to use this land to build the Colosseum. 72 AD was when the Colosseum started being built under Vespasian's rule. And Vespasian continued to rule with an iron fist, but an iron fist that was filled with taxes and great policies of building public works all around the realm. People loved Vespasian, especially because he had a great sense of humor. Just like he chuckled at the Judaic revolutionary, people tried to flatter him. He didn't care. People tried to make fun of him. He didn't care. He just taxed and kept building public works. But Vespasian was withering away. He was already old. When he was elected emperor, he was already in his mid-50s. So after 10 years, he was already getting old for Roman standards. And on his deathbed, Vespasian's sense of humor did not fail him, and he looked up in awe and said, "Oh, I think I'm becoming a god." Vespasian was making fun of the previous Roman emperors, because Vespasian did not see him as an heir to Augustus, as many other Romans tried to be. Augustus saw himself as a god. He made himself as a god while he was alive. Vespasian saw himself more kind of like a Claudius. Claudius ruled before Nero, and he was Nero's kin. So his very final words was making fun of the fact that all Roman emperors become gods. But luckily, Vespasian had a great relationship with the son Tacitus, who was raised with him and was under his wing during the Judaic revolutions and conquests before he ever became emperor, and that was Tacitus. And he took the reins and completed this Colosseum in 80 AD. However, this Colosseum for 100 years was the place of bloody battles. Naval wars reenacted on the Colosseum floor, and also battles between animals, fierce from all around. However, 100 years later, one Roman emperor decided to step into the ring himself. Lee, you were here just 1 year ago. Amazing experience. Hello, Mohammed. Welcome. Nice to see you here. Oh, look at that. So let me tell you a little bit more about the architecture. This is all made by brick. There is some concrete elements to it, but the outside columns are actually all made by huge travertine stones brought in from Tivoli, which is only about 40-minute commute away from Rome, currently by train, a little bit longer, about an hour, and also is close to Hadrian's Villa, which was built many years later. On the bottom, what we're seeing is the exposed underground, which was about 2 stories below ground level. On the ground, which is that level right there, was sand, the entire bowl, oval of sand. The reason they used sand as opposed to any flooring was because when the gladiators would battle and all the blood, guts, and other horrible remnants of these fallen, slain soldiers and animals, they would just cover it up with the sand very quickly. And sand was very good at kind of covering those things up. However, beneath the sand, there were trap doors. Over here, there were 60 trap doors alone, all along the actual stadium floor. Those trap doors were meant for tigers coming out as an unarmed Christian or some other criminal was out there alone. That animal would come starving and very, very hungry and kill that unarmed criminal or persecute a Christian. Also, gladiators would pop out of nowhere. If you were fighting, if there was a battle between a few gladiators, sometimes they were in teams, sometimes it was one-on-one. If one lost, they would sometimes get an executioner gladiator to pop out of nowhere and kill the slain, the fallen gladiator, finishing the job. There will be an extra 360 video of the underground for supporters. Stay tuned. I walked around with the curator, and she told me the entire history and engineering of the bottom 2 floors. Whereabouts did Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris fight take part? Brian, was that scene between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris in the Colosseum? I know it was in some ancient ruin. I didn't know it was in the Colosseum. If it is, I'm not entirely sure. It might not have been filmed on location because, as far as I can recall, it was a very large open space. So who was this emperor that decided to go into the arena? Well, we have to go 100 years forward to the reign of Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was known as the Stoic king. It was because he ended up writing the Meditations, which was kind of this philosophy of Stoicism, which was developed in ancient Greece many centuries prior to him. However, he was a strong follower of it. And for that, he ended up being very successful in conquering many areas of modern-day Germany, and also for having a very long reign, similar to Vespasian, similar to Trajan, who we talked about yesterday. Marcus Aurelius is one of those other good emperors. However, Marcus Aurelius being a Stoic philosophy is kind of this philosophy of being persistent, always going forward, straightforward. There might be a bunch of challenges in the way, but that won't stop you. Just keep on going, head up high, keep doing your thing. That kind of philosophy is a philosophy of deep seriousness about life. That life has its necessary sufferings, and because life has its necessary sufferings, might as well take it by the horns forward. Not like Christianity, where suffering is kind of a thing we have to endure and seek spirituality in. More different, it's more practical. And with that practical philosophy, he wasn't the most caring man. He wasn't the most affectionate father to his son Commodus, who he tried to groom as the future emperor, as the man who will continue conquering more and more lands for the Roman Empire, maybe going all the way to the highlands of Scotland or going further to Syria. But Commodus didn't get the affection he needed when he was a young child. And this was beautifully depicted in the film Gladiator, which is probably one of the most famous films that shows the Colosseum. Because Commodus ended up falling deeply in love with this very Colosseum. Let's keep walking around. I'll show you more. Oh, according to IMDb, they did film that fight in the Colosseum. Interesting. Cool. Thanks for letting us know. I did not know about that. That's an awesome fight scene. Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris. Concrete was poured between the brick facing, which is why it's still standing. Oh, wait until you learn about the bottom part. So you could just imagine all the cheering, jeering, people yelling expletives, people bloodthirsty for more fights. When Vespasian opened this when Titus, his son, opened this in 80 AD, they had 100 days of games. Every single day there was at least 3 rounds of different games going on. Usually the animals would fight in the beginning. In the middle there would be usually criminals being executed. And then later in the day, towards the afternoon, that's when the gladiators would come out. For the first year of the Colosseum was open, they had huge naval battles. They would actually flood the very floor of the stadium and have ships brought in, and they would create classic naval battles that happened in Roman history. Probably naval battles that happened during the Punic Wars or the wars against the Parthians. So here we're seeing the underground a little bit better. They're currently fixing the underground. Let's zoom in there. Because it is in deep, deep disrepair. They're spending millions of dollars in order to repair it from private funding from one of the fashion houses of Italy, similar to the Spanish Steps with Bulgari and Fountain of Trevi with Fendi. Yes, I am again on 3 p.m. Stay tuned. I will be mentioning exactly where I'm going. Oh, so look at this majesty. So we're right above the door of life, which is where the triumphant gladiators would walk through. Or the gladiators that are coming into the arena would walk also through this door. Sometimes they would pop up from the bottom. That over there is the door of death, where the slain or the fallen gladiators would be escorted out, their bodies at least. Behind it were the barracks where the gladiators would live, and they had a secret tunnel that would actually connect the Colosseum and the barracks together. And is the floor new? Yeah, much of the floor that we see here is actually new. We'll see in the bonus 360 video, I went downstairs with one of the curators and she showed me the original flooring. It's very beautiful, like kind of mosaic tiles. Now, the Emperor, I'm assuming, would be right there. The Vestal Virgins, which you're going to learn about them at 3 p.m. Stay tuned. It'll be a little bit before the Emperor, probably in that second floor section right over there. Senate would be surrounding the Emperor as well, and other major families. And we have a Christian cross here because in the 1700s this was consecrated as a holy site. So they had a bunch of statues of holy men all around the Colosseum. (100 AD), Emperor Commodus takes the reins of the one leader to rule all of Rome. But Emperor Commodus did not care about ruling Rome, similar to how Nero didn't really care about ruling Rome either. Nero was the son of a great emperor Claudius, again also one of the other great emperors along the ranks of Vespasian, Tacitus, and Trajan, and Marcus Aurelius. But somehow the son of Marcus Aurelius just also didn't care too much about ruling. What he cared a lot were the games. And he constantly hosted more and more games. More and more bigger battles between great gladiators. Now, the gladiators were the top celebrities of that time. They were huge, massive superstars. So much so that they were treated prim and proper, completely well housed and beautiful palaces, bathed, soaked up in oil, given the best food. The reason they were treated so well was because you can almost think of them as racehorses. They had to be in optimal physical condition in order to win these great battles. And if you were a rich aristocrat patronizing one of these gladiators, who most of them were low-class slaves, you had to maintain them as best as possible. So Commodus decided to step into the arena himself because he was tired of just looking at the games. He wanted to fight in them. Commodus donned this huge kind of lion's head, skin lion's head, as a hat and stepped into the arena. However, Commodus wasn't brave enough to go in as every other gladiator did. Commodus injured the gladiators shortly before the battle. Or he came in with a much stronger weapon than the gladiators did. They would be given blunt swords, or they would be badly fed, so might be mildly poisoned, so they could still stand. And of course, Commodus would come out glorious. He would come out as the person who beat this great gladiator. However, people knew that he was rigging the games, and people didn't like that at all. At first, they were very excited to see an emperor kind of jump into the ring, but after many, many battles that were clearly rigged, the people fought back, and they were disgusted by Commodus. Commodus ended up pissing off the Praetorian Guard, and one night in his own palace, as he was sleeping, he was murdered in cold blood by his own Praetorian Guard. That person used to be a gladiator himself at some point. Why did he kill him? No one knows 100% for sure, but Rome definitely hated him a whole lot. And Commodus was the reason why the Roman Empire started falling. After him, it all went downhill for Rome. Now, the gladiators, a little bit more about them. They used to be superstars, so they would be well fed, they would be well taken care of, but also aristocratic women would sleep with them. They were very well sought after, and this was not kind of in the way you would think today, the modern male celebrity having a bunch of groupies. This was kind of reversed. The aristocratic women had the power to invite these gladiators over for services. So they were very well sought after. And they also probably had affairs with aristocratic men as well. And they wouldn't be considered affairs because Rome thought of sexuality differently back in that time. Yeah, the imperial seats were on the west side, so they only got the morning sun. Yeah, exactly, because if you're south-facing, you're going to be mostly getting the sun the entire day through.
I think we have to.
No, it's a bit dire.
The stage was maybe a little bit higher than the
Cue the Hans Zimmer music, because that's one of the most famous scores associated with the Colosseum from the film Gladiator. Now the games end up losing in popularity. By the 5th century AD, no one really wanted to see games anymore. Christianity started taking Rome overall, and people were coming here thinking that the games were actually a barbaric practice. And the very last gladiatorial game was around 500 something AD by a barbarian king up in the north. And that was the last time we ever saw this blood sport to the death being battled in these Colosseums, in this very Colosseum as well. This Colosseum for many centuries later was covered in vines and was abandoned. People had theories about what was in here. The sculptor, artist, and poet Virgil apparently came in here and did necromancy, raising people from the dead. That was mostly rumor, but Virgil, he had a very intimate relationship with the dead with his work. And people had rumors that the dead would walk inside here, and people were afraid of the Colosseum, so much so that it was the subject of one of the most famous paintings of the Tower of Babel. That famous painting that you saw of the huge tower, modeled straight from the abandoned Colosseum. However, in the past 100 years, this has been one of the most top tourist attractions in all the entire world. 2000s Rome probably had a huge part in that, and making it even more extremely popular. Now, the story of Commodus there's many partly accurate parts, but it's not entirely accurate because there was no Maximus. That was kind of to show all the different other aspects of Rome, aside from Commodus's point of view. However, how did Rome get this decadent? How did Rome end up indulging in all this opulence of the great Colosseum? Well, stay tuned at 3 p.m. as we visit the Roman Forum. Here's one more look at the Colosseum. I hope you enjoyed this broadcast. Gladiator sweat was collected as very expensive perfume and sold to wealthy women. Oh, yes, it was.
This is the gate of today.
Oh, yes, it was. Hello, Lorraine. Welcome. One more look. Say goodbye to the stadium, the Grand Colosseum that inspired all the Colosseums around the world. Originally, the name was Flavian Amphitheater, named after the family Flavian, and end up getting the nickname Colosseum after the Colossus that was right in front of it. But stay tuned, 3 p.m. as we learn how Rome got to its decadent state as we visit the Roman Forum. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Supporters will be getting extra 360 to 360 videos of the underground, the main level, and then we're also going deep into the underground, learning about all the architecture down there. If you want to become a supporter, you can click the button right there, or click the link in the description. Think of it as giving a $5 tip for these videos so I can keep showing you all the beautiful history of this beautiful cities and cities all around the world. Thank you so much for watching. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. Have a great day, everyone.
Später wird in dieser Bogen gesetzt.
Oh, wow.
Ciao, amici. And for Claudius, thumbs up or thumbs down? Commodus. Claudius gets the thumbs up. Commodus gets a huge thumbs down. Ciao, amici, but y'all of you get thumbs up. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring.